Hi there. You are watching and listening to Sipping Off the Cuff on Tequila Aficionado Media on all of our channels and networks. I'm Mike Morales here in San Antonio. That gentleman out there is
Eric Zandona in Vancouver, Washington.
Eric. We keep throwing this kitchen sink at you, and we were rushed these bottles by Priest Imports. This is actually Santo Cuviso. That name sounds familiar, right? But this is the
Yep.
Sotol.
Yeah,
Now, you and I did I guess it's a pseudo sotol called Palmilla. It's
right,
generally a sotol outside of the denomination of origin.
right.
This one is sotol
Yeah,
inside the denomination of origin, and there was a question. Um, the label says Coahuila,
mm-hmm.
but you read the back and the notes. It says it's distilled in Chihuahua, so
I think
uh,
it's just bottled in
it's
Chihuahua.
just bottled in
Yeah.
Chihuahua. Okay. Uh,
So I think the plants and the distillation's happening in Coahuila, but then I think they're taking the bulk spirit and probably bottling it in Chihuahua. That's
okay.
what I think's happening.
Okay. Well, now prior to us having that Palmilla, Eric had confessed he had never had Sotol, and I have. I've had Sotol from Chihuahua, really, and I have a very high bar for the Sotol. So we discovered off camera, Eric did, that the uh, Maestro Sotolero is also a Sotolero for several other brands.
Hmm.
I guess he travels and uses the plants from the designated areas of the denomination of origin where you can make sotol. For those of
Yeah.
you who don't know what sotol is, it's made out of a Daslerian plant. Here in Texas, there's a couple of guys who are making it there, and it's out of Sotol texanum. Um, Primarily in Chihuahua, it's Sotol Daslerian Wheelery, but
Yeah.
this one is Daslerian Cedronum, correct?
Yep. Yep. That's
Okay.
right. Right down there.
Yep. So now, to be fair, I've never had Sotol from Daslerian Cedronum. Not had it. I've had Texas Sotol from another gentleman who makes it, and it
Yeah.
was beautiful. Oh wow.
This is really fruity. It's got a lot of to me it's more like strawberries and cream or like almost kind of a bubblegum fruitiness to it.
Well, what I'm getting is a lot of there's now. See, to be fair, just so you folks know who are watching, listening to us, I'm using a Stasso Jarrito, which is made for mezcals, usually at higher ABVs, and Eric's using the handy dandy Glencairn, which is
Yeah.
great for everything. Um,
Much
what I
more.
get what I get is a lot of clay. I'm getting a lot of um, I'm not getting the fruit notes so much as I'm getting clay notes and
Uh-huh.
more of the plant notes. And when if you folks have seen the Palmilla video review that we did, what I love about Sotol is that it smells like the desert Southwest. For those of you
Yeah.
who live in those areas, New Mexico, Arizona, parts of California out in the desert, you know how you can smell rain before it actually hits the ground.
Hmm.
There's a certain, or what I tell people, if you've ever washed out your garage in a heat wave,
Yeah.
you smell that wet cement. You smell
Mm.
that, when water hits a hot pavement, and you can smell that usually in a sotol, and it reminds me, just takes me back to New Mexico or even parts of Texas,
Yeah.
West Texas.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I'm
and as it
starting.
opens up, I'm getting more fruit. But right on the top, I don't know why I got a lot of clay, a lot of wet cement.
It's funny. It might just be had slightly different shapes of our glasses or highlight. Because now I feel like as it's open a little bit, I'm getting a little bit more of that like green vegetal character
Right,
that we had in the Palmilla.
right.
And I can see what you mean by like clay. There is sort of an earthiness there, but to me it's really well like a strong mixture of both like fruitiness and kind of earthiness going on.
This is I'm not sure if we're allowed to say who this Maestro Sotolero. I guess he's responsible for several other brands. Um,
Yeah, I mean his name's right on the bottle, so I don't think there's any problem saying who he
okay,
is.
that's cool. All right. You know, see, that's the controversy in mezcal. A lot of mezcaleros don't want you to know that they make mezcal for other brand owners because they seem to think that it takes away from the romantic image
Yeah.
that artisanal mezcals are all made by by hand, and there's a lot of work involved. And yeah, there's a lot of labor intensive work involved, but they still got to make a living too.
Right.
It's no different than the whiskey distilleries making a ton of different labels
Right.
or maquiladoras in tequila.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and literally I still think it's the hand of the maker that makes a big difference.
Yeah. And this is actually, I think this is one of the things that's interesting is that if you try some other Sotols by this Maestro, you get a real, I think you can have a side-by-side taste and see like slightly different plant, different region, you're going to get a different flavor.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's one of the beauties of this.
Well, it's literally like mezcal is also, that people want to know what town, what municipality it comes from, and we all know it can come from Oaxaca, but where in Oaxaca does it come from? Because that seems to make a difference too, and a lot of mezcal nerds, they want to know where it's made and where the everything. You can snap the QR code on a bottle of mezcal and it'll tell you probably where the plants are coming from. So
Yeah.
but
Takes it.
I think like I said, these bottles were rushed to us, and so we just popped the seal on this one here. So let's just taste it because
Yeah.
I'm anxious to taste and see what this is about. Mm.
Okay. So for me on the palate, there's a lot more of that vegetal, like desert, like green
Yeah.
plant character that we talked about, like with the palmia that I've had with other sotols. But this is still, even so, it's a little bit, I would say a little bit more muted. It's not as like in your face with that character. It's there. To me, this is sort of like if you've had, say, Karwinski mezcals, it's sort of in that kind of vein. It's got that green vegetal character, but it's not super intense. But nice structure, 43% alcohol. It's got a nice body to it.
Well, as I was intaking it, I could smell the fruitiness you were talking about. It was ever so slight. I understand now what you were getting at, but it was right before the intake. Mm-hmm. And like I say, I think maybe just mine needed to open up a little bit more because I got to tell you, it is a 42% alcohol. I've had them even higher, actually. And the funny thing about the folks that I've had, I had Don Cuco Sotol, and their varietals, the different versions that they've had at higher ABVs was like a whole different alcohol. It was like a whole different experience. So the higher the alcohol grade, depending on, I guess it depends on the hand of the maker and where exactly they're being wild harvested. Because what we know about this is that these are wild harvested.
Yeah.
Apparently, in Coahuila and from Daslerian Cedronum. Like I say, my experience is primarily Wheelery.
Yeah.
But this one, you're right. It's a bit toned down. It's really more akin to a Bacanora or a Mezcal almost.
Yeah. So I think they have. I mean, the thing that kind of comes to mind is suave, right? It's got this like smoothness to it that it's just like it's not in your face aggressive. It's more just like here's the character, here's the essence, but it's got this nice sort of refined character to it that I think to me, as much as like I was, as you know, and repeat those who listen to the review about the Palmia, how sort of captivated I was by it and
Yeah.
got poetic. And this, in some ways, I think might be a little bit more accessible to mezcal drinkers who, like I said, who are familiar with the Karwinski variety and fans of that sort of flavor profile. The Santo Cuviso, I think, kind of falls into that range of like, oh yeah, this is similar but different, and it's got a lot of nice character to it.
I think if we put it side by side with the Palmia, you'll see you'll know. We
Yeah,
would say 'cause it's just really two different. It's two different animals. It
yeah,
really is.
yeah,
I was really impressed with that Palmia too. I thought that was very. It was interesting to me to know that they actually had made a Sotol
yeah.
outside of the denomination of origin
Mhm.
of Sotol, and it was called something else because um, it really was more akin to what I was used to.
Yeah,
Now this Cedronum, you're right. I got the fruity notes on the intake. I will say it's kind of like it's got at mid palate to the rear to the back of the palate. It has a kind of a peppery, like some mezcals or some tequilas will have that white
yeah,
pepper, black pepper thing going on. But the finish is almost short to non-existent. You notice that it's not
yeah.
it doesn't have a mezcal finish that you're
No,
used to.
there's a little bit of a vegetal character on the finish, and then it's kind of fades off. Um, this plant, the Dyslirium, is sort of in the way people ate it in the Southwest region was sort of like we eat artichokes. They would cook the plant and then eat the flesh off of the ends of the leaves and the heart. And I don't know if it's just because I know that it reminds me of it, but there's this almost kind of vegetal, earthy, like artichoke kind of thing going on in the finish a little bit, like it was roasted
Yeah.
artichoke maybe.
Well,
But
this is what the information that we had from it is that it is. Uh, Let me just read this really quickly because um, let's see. They're wild harvested, so they're not using anything. No pesticides, no nothing.
mhm,
Um, the It's an underground stone oven, is what they're calling it. What the notes say, and double distilled in copper pot stills. No artificial flavoring of any kind. I really have to say, Eric, that what we're tasting, I think, is the characteristic of the plant.
mhm,
Having had Sotol from Chihuahua, and then of course we had the Palmia, and now this Sotol Cedronum. I think, like you said, it falls within another vein that I think this Sotol would do really well in a cocktail as well. Even though
mhm.
it's at 42, I think it's more um, the profile itself kind of allows itself to be used in a anything that calls for a mezcal.
Yeah,
You you could you could easily substitute a Sotol in it,
yeah, you could.
and the smokiness is not off-putting.
No,
It's almost non-existent.
yeah, yeah. Again, like I said, I think to me this is just like there are mezcals that sort of are more aggressive and less aggressive. Like I think this to me falls in that total category of slightly less aggressive on the plant character, but still a nice spirit.
Oh boy, retronasal. Holy cow! Wow. Well, what do you think? Instead of Brandon Promise nominee, what do you?
I think so. I mean, there's definitely a lot of good character here. Um, And I think you're right that I think there's a lot of what we're seeing is the plant itself. So
And the region that it's been harvested in. I think
yeah,
the terrain
yeah,
that I think of all the plants that all the mezcals, because anything that's not a tequila is a mezcal anyway. But I
yeah,
think of all the mezcals and bacanores and sotols that we've had, I think sotol, the plant itself, in Spanish they call it cereque, really adopts, the terrain in which it was grown.
yeah,
Um, so the fact that it'll grow in the desert Southwest, from Texas, New Mexico, West Texas, uh, California, they use it in the wine regions as ground cover for especially if there are sheer cliffs and stuff, because it holds in. When you get the rains in Southern California and the houses slide down, they'll put sotol plants. So
yeah,
I'm hoping one day I get the taste of a Daslerian Californium. I don't know.
yeah.
But it's to me it is really, it's just one of those very versatile plants that it just adopts to the area
Mm,
where it is grown. So
yeah.
it um, I'm really, one day I would love to taste a sotol with you that's made of it from Daslerian Wheelery in Chihuahua, because
Yeah.
that, and you'll see the difference. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, you got a little bit of taste of it with the Palmilla, and then with this.
Yeah.
But and then I have Sotol here from Durango that Lisa and I have to do the tasting for, and
Hmm.
that's a whole different animal, because it comes across much more, the samples I've had come across much more aggressively, and
Mm.
I also believe that they're at a higher ABV. If I'm not mistaken, they're at 45, 46.
Hmm.
So again, this plant at every level of distillation, of alcohol by volume, it becomes a whole different drink. It's a
Yeah.
whole different beverage.
Yeah.
So, and as well as some mezcals as well. But anyway, that's our take on Santa Cuviso Sotol. Beautiful packaging. It very
Mhm.
much falls in line. It's from the makers. The company that owns this also owns the Santo Cuviso Bacanora that you saw on the cover of Tequila Aficionado magazine, and you've seen Eric and I go sing the praises of that Bacanora. Wow. But I'll keep throwing the kitchen sink at you.
I'll take it.
That's our take on Santo Cuviso Sotol from Coahuila. I'm Mike Morales here in San Antonio. That gentleman out there is.
Eric Zandona in Vancouver, Washington.
You have been watching and listening to Sipping Off the Cuff on Tequila Aficionado Media. Please download our podcasts anywhere you listen to it, whether it's iTunes or Spotify. And, also, if you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe, hit that red button, hit the notification bell every time we upload a brand new video, which this year has been every other day. You'll be notified. And whatever you do, tomar sabiamente.
Sip wisely.